Welcome and thank you for joining us. Today we are speaking with Zen Master De Kwang, Zen Master De Kwang Sunim. Zen Master De Kwang Sunim has been a monk since I think the 1970s or so. Correct me.
80s.
80s. Okay, well, relatively within the ballpark. And we are honored to have you here with us today. So thank you.
Thank you.
So one of the things that has kind of stood out to me is the way that, like never before, you know, we're able to go online and with just a few clicks, a few buttons, we can have access to all of the great spiritual teachings, philosophers, you know, any kind of idea is right there at a moment's notice. So, you know, in a world where, you know, we're kind of overloaded with options and choices and different people saying this is the truth and the way to find happiness, what makes Zen stand out from all that? What makes Zen different from all that?
Yeah, because all that talk doesn't make any difference. You have to look inside and find the truth for yourself. That's what the Buddha did. The Buddha had read everything when he was growing up, or almost everything. So that's the rub. The rub is, what are you going to do? Not, will you find really good teaching online?
And how does Zen help facilitate that as a practice as opposed to, let's say, maybe Christianity or Islam or something else? What do we do?
Yeah, all those religions have practices too, although very few people do it. One thing that always shocked me when I first went to Singapore, I'm from Nebraska, is Muslims walking around with beads going click, 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 right? There's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is the prophet. So, and we have the same thing in Christianity. There's the same thing in Judaism. So just about everything that we call religions, and they're quite different from China to Newfoundland or something, have some kind of practice element in them. Although they view those practices quite different, and those practices are different styles. So the Zen style is very simple. It applies. I have many Christian friends, even Christian Zen masters, that use our style of practicing. So that style of practicing is pointing you towards your own experience. It's not to teach you anything, it's to reveal something to yourself about yourself.
So, you know, when it came time for you to kind of undergo this journey and walk whatever path you chose to walk, what was it about this that attracted you to it instead of keeping to a Catholic background or anything like that? I myself came from a Catholic background, and while I still love it and, you know, I still enjoy going to Mass from time to time, it just wasn't quite right for me. So what made this path that was right for you and eventually made you choose to dedicate your life to it?
Well, encountering Zen Master Sung San in 1978 really shocked me, because I was a university teacher. I knew everything, you know, how they are. But I was always interested in Buddhism, and then if you read the right stuff, it'll kind of shock you and point you in a particular direction. And one thing that's quite interesting about Zen is it points towards experience. It doesn't care that much about what you believe. And of course, that's why Catholics can use the techniques, because nothing in Zen violates their beliefs, and the Zen practitioners who are Buddhists can practice with Christians, no problem. It's about this direct experience. It's not about your beliefs.
What was it about Zen Master Sung Song that kind of made you want to follow him as a teacher? Was it what he was saying, or was there something else about him as well that attracted you?
Well, it's the whole schmear. Because he actually, he had something, right? He spent his whole life practicing. He supposedly got enlightenment when he was like 19 years old. And he's very practice-oriented. He doesn't care that much about what you think or believe or whatever. He's always pushing you into practice. So that impressed me. I'd never seen that before. Because usually people are very attached also to practice, right? Rather than what you get from it, they're attached to the forms of it or some kind of idea about it. It's not about an idea.
So, in our style, we have kind of two paths that people can take as they kind of follow, in terms of just roles and functions, not related to their actual kind of practice itself. We have these Dharma teachers, and we have people who choose to become Sunims. So what was it about the path of monasticism that attracted you, and what would you say is the difference between those two?
There is no difference, ultimately, but there is a difference in style. So the style is kind of shocking, right? Like it has this kind of, this is the real deal. I mean, that's just advertising, but it's kind of cool.
It's good advertising.
Yeah, but the kind of advertising you don't want to do. Yeah, so Buddhism means wake up and help the world, so being a Sunim, a Bhikkhuni, or a Bhikkhu is committing yourself to a particular style of teaching. It's not special, but it is a style.
So speaking of things that are shocking, actually, one of the things that still blows my mind is, nowadays, especially as a result of the pandemic, we have more options to kind of tune into practice remotely than ever before. People can, a couple clicks, you can be doing full meditations and retreats from the comfort of your own home. So, and that's not something that I don't know if it's ever going to away. Well, but what do I know? If I could predict the future, God knows my life would be very different. But it is a change, that's for sure.
And it's always changing.
Yeah.
So the form of the change might be kind of a surprise, right?
So with this kind of change, what do you see kind of the role and functions of these physical Zen centers, like the Providence Zen Center that we're in? What kind of function and role is that might change into, you think, in the future, or even now, as we're, people don't need to physically come here anymore?
I hope that those kind of online experiences push people to actually going someplace and physically practicing, right?
What is the importance of practicing in person with people versus maybe online? Then I got the sense that when you said you hope that it would encourage them to come in person, that there's a different quality to practicing in person. So could you expand on that a little?
Yeah. So we always teach together action practicing. So that's an actual technique. So our job is to find our true self and help the world. Well, one way you help the world is, of course, being able to get along with people so you can actually talk to them and help them, right?
Not a small thing.
Exactly. So this together action practicing in person gives you that experience on all different levels, on the smell level, the taste level, the ha-ha-ha level, the level. So this together action practicing is actually Zen Master Sung Sung's main technique. Because when you act together with people, you get wisdom, right? So if you're sitting underneath a tree, I mean, even the Buddha, a god had to come down from heaven and tell him, well, it isn't about what you attain by yourself underneath this tree, it's about getting up and helping the world. So that the same thing could be true of us too. We could sit at home in front of a computer and think, oh, this is groovy, and my coffee is really good this morning, stuff like that. So if you jump into this in-person thing, then that's what we call together action practicing. So actually from our particular Zen point of view, and ultimately even from Buddhism's point of view, it's about doing something together with other people. So that's what I think is good about in person. But there's all kinds of things that can bring you to that, right? So you might see a movie that scares the hell out of you on TV and streamed online, and then you come to the Zen Center. So that watching that movie online did help you, it pushed you in a particular kind of direction, and then you have a different kind of experience when you actually do it together with other real people who have real attitudes and real whatever, real suffering. So you get to experience that as a direct experience, not just and there's nothing wrong with the online stuff. It just, I don't know. It's a style, and some styles are better than other styles. So I'd say actual in-person together action practicing is the best, but maybe after you work all day on the computer, you want to click onto some site for 5 minutes and chant the Heart Sutra. Well, that's okay.
So, speaking of this kind of beginning, this together action where we get to encounter other people's ideas and their suffering, I remember for myself, and God knows it's still going on, there's all sorts of ideas that are going on, all sorts of ways that we kind of rub up against other people. And, over time, we learn how to put that down and coexist a little bit more harmoniously. But in the beginning, where we, still really believe all this stuff in our head, how do we go through it and stick around?
Persist.
And how do we do that? God knows I want to throw in the towel some days.
Yeah, me too. That's natural.
Yeah.
In fact, that failing and then coming back, that's part of the process. There's nothing good or bad about that. That's how it works its way out. And then you'll be dead and nobody will remember that you did that. So it's this direct experience in the just now. So usually we think in historical terms, or we think in future terms, or like next week I'm really going to start practicing hard, or last year at the Cambridge Zen Center I really practiced hard. But those are just ideas. That doesn't exist even. So you're just rotating those ideas through your brain. And then maybe you like them, maybe you don't like them, maybe you think you're this or that or the other thing. But you're actually only just now. So that means wake up, just now.
So, these ideas, especially about these likes and these dislikes coming and going, actually we brought this up very briefly a couple days ago. In all kind of spiritual traditions, all the ones that have a practice element, there's this idea, maybe idea is the wrong word, but of the dark night of the soul. Kind of this moment of crisis of faith, belief, or in kind of what you're doing or who you are, however you want to describe it. So I'm curious, have you ever really had this moment where you're sitting on your cushion and you just went, God, this is all
Of course.
And what
it happens to everybody all the time.
And what made you choose to say through it then instead of saying this is and I'm done, I'm leaving? What helped get you through that?
Hopefully you get some good teaching that clearly lays out what the whole thing is about. So that's another thing I like about Zen Master Sung San. Is he's not giving you anything for you. He's trying to wake you up. And not wake you up for you, wake you up so you can help the world. So it's this kind of deft teaching style, and that's what I like about Zen, because you can get attached to Zen, of course, anybody can, but it's a particular kind of I don't know what I call it, an awareness of this bigger thing. Helping the world is actually our job, so that's our so-called teaching. So it isn't to get anything like I'm going to get to heaven, or I'm going to get to nirvana, or I'm going to get to Starbucks. It's about waking up and helping the world. So just clearly stating that all the time is all you can do. And then people will do with it whatever they do with it.
Yeah.
Right? And hopefully you clearly lay it out enough that they can perceive that, well, maybe they should be doing something else or doing more.
So maybe this resonates a little bit with when you previously just said, persist, persist. But I've been with this Sangha here for a couple of years, with the Orlando Sangha for maybe half a decade or so. Both in myself and with the people that I sit with and talk to, sometimes there's this kind of frustration and maybe a little despair that comes with, I've been doing this for over a decade and God knows this thing is, this piece of karma is just as strong as it was on day one, kind of thing.
Right.
What do you say to those people who are kind of facing that? And
practice. Because that's a delusion, what you just mentioned there. Right? Those things don't exist, but you think about them. And that you think about them in terms of your desire, anger, and ignorance.
Yeah.
So if you practice, you'll notice that those things float away. Because all this talking, even that I'm doing, is that I want something talking. But then there's something else. Right? So that didn't have I want something, I don't want something. It doesn't have that was great, that wasn't great. It doesn't have that was stupid or that was brilliant. It just has, whoop.
So you brought up anger, ignorance, and desire, the three poisons. Yeah, at least in the formal terminology for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nowadays there's sort of this sense that, you know, these three poisons have almost been institutionalized in the way that we
They've
suffer.
always been institutionalized.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And one of the interesting things about, you know, Western Buddhism and Western Zen, there's this idea of, you know, we need to go out there and, you know, be activists or what have you. People have different ideas and different callings and that kind of thing. But, you know, looking at the state of the world and, you know, maybe the new creative ways we come up with suffering, even though it's all the same at the end of the day, maybe. What does it mean to help this world in an age of, you know, mass media disinformation, millions of billions of dollars being put in to convince people your worth as a human is to buy things. Right. What gives you satisfaction is spending and wanting more. You know, there's a lot of power behind that these days.
Oh yeah, of course.
How do we help the world when things
so
are that
that's how
strong?
we find your true self and help the world. Now I don't know how we help the world, but if you're not attached to it and you have this feeling of love and compassion inside, which is the essence of Buddhism, then that's why you do it ultimately. But it's always try. We always say, try for 10,000 years nonstop. Well, that's a cool thing to say. You're not alive for 10,000 years. You're only alive in this moment. So what will you do in this moment? Yeah.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Can I get you any more water? How can I help you today,
no.
Zen Master?
Thank you. Yeah, so that's it. It's an intuitive thing. It isn't a formal thing that you read in a book or write in a diary or anything like that.
So, what would you say is the biggest misconception that people have about Zen? And
that you get something, that you lack something, so you either need to get rid of something like the father-in-law that you don't like, or you need to get something like marry your neighbor's husband and then you'll be happy, or wife, or dog. So we're always thinking that way. You know, that's the like and dislike mind. And it just rolls on and rolls on. It's natural. It's not good or bad. The problem is attaching to it. So we just let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. Then what naturally is will appear by itself. You don't have to do anything. Everybody thinks they have to do something. They don't have to do anything. You have to let go of something. But these are just different ways of talking. So the ways of talking can be relatively good ways of talking or relatively bad ways of talking. But they all have the essential truth back behind them, you know. So is God named Jehovah? Is God named God? Is God named Allah? So if you do that, then you realize, like my friend, his father, Kevin Hunt, he's a Trappist monk, he's always saying, God is just a three-letter word. Okay, but what is it really? Yeah. So that's kind of like somebody like Meister Eckhart or somebody who's a Christian mystic is trying to point you towards having a direct experience of what this is. So I can tell you what Starbucks coffee tastes like, but until you actually drink it yourself, you know, you won't know. You might have a vague idea because it's almost like Dunkin' coffee.
There are some Bostonians who might very strongly disagree with you on that. You know, we're coming into this time in our school where, you know, we kind of have this first generation of teachers and students like yourself who, you know, learned directly under Zen Master Sung Song, and, you know, we're having these kind of iterative generations came in who maybe never met him personally or received his teaching. You know, what do you think of, or what do you see in kind of these new generations of Zen students, Zen Master Sung Song's teachings, who haven't kind of met or encountered him?
Yeah, that's true all the time, because everything's always changing. You know, there's people that never met the Buddha, or people who never sat with the sixth patriarch, or whatever. That's all the time. So the big question is still the same. The great vow is still the same, whether you have some particular teacher there or not. So it's about what you do. That's all there is. Because you don't have anything else.
No, I don't. For you, though, what kind of legacy are you looking to leave behind when the time comes for students to learn from your teaching who maybe never met you?
No legacy.
No legacy.
Find out for yourself. There's nothing to learn from me. Except you have to find out. Because like the Buddha didn't know what the heck was going on, right? He said, practiced for 6 years with several different teachers. In the end, he just sat underneath a tree.
If you had any kind of last words, something simple and straightforward that you can leave behind as a teaching for people who may watch this or listen to you many years down the line, what would you like that to be?
Find your true self, help the world.
Find your true self.
I don't have anything new or inventive. I've been doing that for over 2,000 years.
Well, Zen Master Kwang, Sansanim, thank you very much for coming and sitting with us today, for indulging my questions, and it's always a pleasure to have you here. And this has been our conversation with Zen Master Kwang. Thank you all so much, and as he said, may you find your true self, wake up, and help this world. Thank you.
Thank you.